Hey, Steve Smith.
Hello, Brett Starr.
Oh, man. That pause was nice and befuddling at the same time. How you doing today?
Doing good. Enjoying a little warmer weather for a change.
Did you survive the big winter blast?
Yes, I survived winter's icy grip, and looking forward to not having a foot of snow on the ground and being able to drive my little tiny car because I couldn't. It was snowed in, literally.
Did you get a water bob?
I did not get a water bob.
Well, who needs one anyway?
Exactly. We have the Mississippi River, so I can just kind of go down, crack a hole in the ice with my, prospector pick and dip some of the clean water that flows past the Monsanto plants in Illinois. Yeah, no problem.
Mighty Mississippi. Do you ever watch the show Letterkenny?
I have not, but I've had it recommended to me.
Lots of great ice fishing scenes in there. So the opening title card or whatever for Letterkenny says there are 5,000 people in Letterkenny, which is this place in northern Canada. Mm-hmm. And these are their problems. And the whole show's about these three groups, the hockey players, the skids, and the hicks. And their constant, turmoil between those three groups. But there's a lot of ice fishing that goes on in that show. Have
you ever been ice fishing?
I never have. I feel like I should, though.
I've always wanted to go.
It looks like a drinking sport to me.
It is. It is primarily you sit in a little hut out on the ice and not a lot happens and you drink.
Yeah. I've been to Canada a lot. And one time I went to a curling club with a
Roger. Yeah.
And that's a drinking sport as well.
I have a feeling that pretty much any sport in Canada is going to be a drinking sport.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. They're, ice fishing and curling, definitely. All right, well, let's get into it.
All right.
So, I don't know how much of this is going to make it into your newsletter this week, but as I've said many times, you always do an internal briefing prior to the newsletter going out. Oftentimes that is a signal of what content is going to be in the newsletter, except this being WorkTech, anything could happen between, now and Friday, and that could change everything. But what I was most compelled by with the internal briefing that you sent around was this whole topic of product delusion and that fantastic article on product delusion. And it just really struck a nerve with me because this is something I think we take for granted at the Star Conspiracy. And I think we've talked about it internally so much that we no longer talk about it very much outside of the Star Conspiracy. But in short, the product delusion is this notion that companies compete primarily on product quality or on features and benefits. And therefore, the quality of marketing by extension ends up being not as significant as getting the product right. If you build it, they will come. If you have the best product, you'll be rewarded by the market, et cetera. And as we've said for years, the trash heap of WorkTech is piled high with the best products ever invented.
Right.
And the problem is nobody ever heard about them and, didn't form an emotional connection. And so, I'll throw you a softball just to start. Do you believe the best product wins in WorkTech?
Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Good.
How many times have we talked to a company that spent years getting their product right before they launched? And then they came to us and they said, you know what? I need to find somebody to buy this company from me. The product is perfect. What have you got in sales? We don't have any sales. Yeah. Oh, okay. How often has that happened, Brett?
Oh, gosh, I'd say about once a week. I mean, literally like once a week.
Yeah.
But it's, I have a lot of empathy for these folks because it's a tough, well, I wasn't implying that you did not, Steve.
I don't know. There was a tone of judgment in your voice, Brett Starr.
Why are you such an asshole, man? Where's the love?
Play the day, man. Play the day.
Well, I was going to say that shooting that gap can be really hard
Yeah.
Because if you look at a lot of startups, like real startups, not the ones that we read about that just got like $80 million, but like real startups who are like, have a little seed money, and are trying to put something together, and go out and get the funds that they need to, build the product they want or expand their marketing reach or whatever. I have seen the opposite as well, where companies focus on marketing too soon.
Yeah.
And they end up, bringing in, a lot of analysts and having a lot of demos and, stuff like that. And those moments that get created because the product is not, ready for, display yet, end up creating some perceptions in the marketplace because they just went out to market too soon. And I'm talking about companies who like had an idea, worked on it for 6 months, and they're already showing it to people, and they want to start marketing. So you can't take it too far. Like you do have, the product matters. It has to work.
Right.
It has to meet the basic requirements of the category in which people are shopping, even if it's a, quote, minimally viable product.
Right.
But most of the time it's the scenario that you're describing where every, dollar and dime that people can scrape together is put into perfecting this vision of the killer product, and creating feature or component superiority. And then by the time they've run out of money, no one even knows they exist, and they're going out trying to sell the company as an asset. And the biggest challenge with that is that people don't really buy assets. They buy evidence of success.
Right.
And evidence of success is
traction.
It's most often quantified by traction. And so if you have no clients, if you have no growth, it can look like the most amazing product ever, but it's going to be valued in most cases pretty low because no one trusts themselves to discern quality without external validation and signals that are often, kind of defined by how many people have bought it and, what's their opinion, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it happens all the time. So, does the best product win? And my answer to that would be, at multiple levels, the best product rarely wins.
Right. Can you think of an example
of the best product not winning?
Yes.
Well, yes. So at the risk of losing a ton of revenue,
we can always bleep that out. We can fix that in post.
Yeah, we fix that in post. Guess what the entire paradigm of performance management is around the world? SuccessFactors. Mm-hmm. That was a shitty product. That product was so shitty. No offense to anyone at SuccessFactors, but this was part of their strategy. It was so shitty that at one point they reached the lowest net promoter score ever observed for a software product. And the management at the time basically said, don't worry about that. We're out getting market share. Mm-hmm. Our product works. It does what people expect it to do in the category. And we'll go back and create a better customer experience once we've dominated the market. And that's pretty much what they did.
Yeah.
But there were much better products at the time.
Yes.
That were much more in alignment with what we see in like, conversations and feedback and continuous performance management and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because of the sheer marketing power of SuccessFactors at the time, which only got stronger and stronger. I think they were founded in 2001. Mm-hmm. Only got stronger and stronger with each year that passed, up to and after their IPO, all the way up to the moment that they were acquired by SAP. They did not have the best product. In fact, they left a wake of better products, of dead better products behind them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's an example. And I think, we see all the time, people will come to us and demo their products and they want our opinion from an analyst perspective on, does it meet, the needs of the category that they're operating in, or is it so disruptive or innovative that it's valuable despite the fact that it doesn't fit into an existing category? So we get to see all kinds of awesome stuff, really awesome stuff. One that pops to mind, and I'm going to shut up because I'm talking too much, but one that pops to mind is a brilliant blockchain product. And, blockchain's a real thing. It often gets, kind of mixed up with crypto and stuff like that. And I totally get it. But blockchain solves real problems with data privacy and data sharing and scalability and all that stuff. And that product is amazing. They're probably going to do pretty well, but they've been at it for a very long time, even though their product is a superior product. So all the time I see, products that truly are better than the ones that end up defining, what people want in the marketplace and what the paradigm is.
Well, and I think another element to this is if we are going to establish the poles of this comparison, there is the product delusion part where you believe that the best product is going to win the market, not the best marketed product. And I think that, our position is it's usually the best marketed product, not the best product that wins a market. The opposite pole is sort of, a core principle of the Silicon Valley approach to marketing, which is fake it till you make it. Yeah. So it's the opposite. It is vaporware, essentially. Great marketing and vaporware is the other pole of this, which we've seen that come into question of late, where, there's talk about the minimally viable product, which, that is, the assumption is you do not know what your market truly needs until you put the product in front of them and start getting real-time feedback. Yeah. And then you have to adjust your product accordingly. There's this whole idea that started to emerge of the minimally ethical product. What is the minimum level of product viability that is actually ethical to put in front of buyers, which, if you're building, Candy Crush, I mean, who gives a shit,
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're building workplace technology that's going to have an impact on, does a person have a good employee experience or a bad employee experience, or does this company get sued or not get sued?
Yeah.
Does someone die in the workplace or not die in the workplace? The concept of having a minimally ethical product is pretty salient, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And, those are real situations that you're talking about. I mean, in many cases, like if you look at the, well-being market, for instance, people's physical health and mental health is on the line with those solutions that are purchased based on the claims that they make. So that's a real thing. But there's also just, micro outcomes, like does the person's career get better or worse based on the purchase decision of the solution that you, trick them into buying if it's a shitty solution, right?
Right.
And, to me, all of this, kind of boils down to two, kind of separate but related, observations. Number one is I think that we need to move beyond, and one of the things that I disagreed with in this article that talks about the product delusion, which we'll drop a link in the description and everything so people can, get mad or, viscerally agree, just like everyone who reads anything these days. But one of the things that I disagreed with was this notion of who runs marketing, right? And, they talked about finance running marketing or sales running marketing and that being a bad thing. And I think that hits at a layer of abstraction that's too low to really name the problem. And again, there's like kind of two problems I'm holding in my head at the same time. The first is it's not a single effort or discipline. It's all wrapped up in customer experience. And so customer experience, the way we look at it, is a domain, and the primary domains are employee experience, customer experience, shareholder experience, and social good. Those are the four domains of, stakeholder experience or stakeholder capitalism or whatever you want to call it, right? And the subdomains of customer experience are brand, marketing, sales, product, and customer success, right? Mm-hmm. And so the reality is no one person should own any of this except for, the execution of the skills and discipline that are required to do your part of the overall experience. But everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction towards creating moments that all add up to the experience that you want to create. And so what often happens with these examples that you're talking about is there's a company that's really, really great at marketing, and they get the first looks and they build that availability, that mental availability, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody knows who they are.
Right.
And so they're the first, name that that people think of when they need a solution in a certain category. But the product experience is not in sync with the marketing experience. And so they let people down. There's a break in CX continuity. And that break in continuity is at such a level that the business ends up not being sustainable.
Right.
And so I think that happens all the time, but that's not because of, like marketing not owning marketing.
Right.
That's right. Because it wasn't thought of holistically, as an experience. But the other idea that can feel like a contradiction to what I just said is marketing is what buys you the chance to begin with.
Right.
And so if you've got a great CX vision and you have a great product, but you don't have great marketing, you're never going to get a look, because it really comes down to this notion of mental availability. When people decide that they want to pursue an opportunity or fix a problem, and that gets manifested in a certain category of solutions, do they remember you? Do they know you exist or not? And if you can't compete at that level, which is increasingly difficult because of all the money that's flowing into work tech, it doesn't matter if you have a great product experience.
Well, and I think it also begs the question, what is the role of marketing? I think that there are cynics out there who believe that marketing is essentially, by hook or by crook, getting somebody to buy your product. And I think that our ethos has always been at the Star Conspiracy is you have a radical buyer for your product. How do you connect with the radical buyer fastest? How do you, basically it's just like, how do we help you connect with somebody who's predisposed to being a great customer for you, rather than trying to trick somebody into buying your product? No, it's let's help people buy the right product.
Yeah, find the one that's right for them. Right. So what is a radical buyer? Describe that, because most people probably won't know what that is.
Well, it's been part of our lexicon, back, since we crawled out of the primordial marketing soup back in the day. But the whole idea is that every brand has a buyer that is radically predisposed to being their customer. Even within the same category, the demographics of a buyer will be the same across all brands or a lot of brands, but the psychographics of your radical buyer would be unique to you. And so a lot of it is understand what is it about the DNA of your company and your culture that infuses its way into the product that makes that the right fit for your radical buyer.
Yeah, it's attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs, right. And it results in a radical bond, because people don't buy logically, they buy emotionally.
Right.
And people will believe that every day when it comes to, like consumer brands.
Yeah. Are you a Mac or a PC? Are you an iPhone or an Android person?
Yeah. And that's an emotional decision. I mean, they basically do the same thing. They share a lot of the same traits. People argue all day about one being better than the other, but it's an emotional decision. It's not a quantifiable better than product quality,
right?
Decision. And I'll also say, there's the fellow who wrote Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Righteous Mind, which is all about moral foundations theory and why people can't get along, who have different beliefs. Wrote this article a long time ago. Which basically references Rousseau's work back in the day. It's like, tell me what you own and I'll tell you who you are, and how that's becoming more concentrated now.
Yeah.
Because if I look across, through my window across the street and I see a Toyota Prius in someone's driveway, I'm going to make all kinds of assumptions about, what that person believes. And if I look at, into another driveway and I see a big, lifted dually truck with, whatever, notwithstanding bumper stickers and, flags and all that stuff, I'm also going to make some assumptions about what that person believes. And even people, most people, not everyone, because not everyone falls into this psychographic trap, but even people who would really be into the features and benefits of a Toyota Prius or a dually won't buy it because of their fear of what people might think about them or what it says about them. So we're accustomed to this notion that B2C purchases have this, like really strong emotional component, not so much in B2B, but I would argue the reverse. I think that when people put their career and reputation on the line to buy a product that everyone's going to see and use inside a company, especially one that impacts the work experience, it's a very emotional purchase.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. And I think that I think in work tech, we are making those sort of those assumptions about buyers all the time. It's not unusual that you are working with a startup work tech company where they usually going after their initial, slice of market share. Many work tech companies are all shooting after that knowledge worker, primarily desk bound, whether they're remote or hybrid, basically people who look just like them.
Yeah.
And that for a long time, that has been the target buyer of the startup ecosystem, and the stereotype of the non-radical buyer, the company that is not, your, early adopter is, an old line, fill in the blank manufacturing, non-professional, non-knowledge worker environment. And it's just like, those are biases that have been sort of hard-coded into work tech. And I wouldn't say just work tech. I think it's in all of, definitely of enterprise technology, with certain exceptions, because there are some companies that go after those type of buyers.
Well, this is deep stuff because, we've talked a lot about kind of ivory tower work tech in the past and how everything's, kind of targeted at, professional workers and white collar workers and all that stuff. There's a huge market out there of solutions that are built for hourly workers, for, the manufacturing, segment, et cetera. But it's usually like private equity groups that get involved with those plays, where it's typically venture capital that gets involved with, kind of the knowledge worker play. So why is that? Why is it? What's the relationship between private equity and, companies that are, more old world industry, and venture capital and knowledge work? What's going on? And private equity companies are privately, because, like we beat up on venture capitalists for certain things. Yeah. We beat up on private equity groups for certain things. The reality is, if you were twisting my arm, I would say that there's more value creation in private equity. I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, but I think there's more value creation in private equity because they approach every deal they do with the expectation that it will succeed, and they contribute to the success of that company. And a lot of the companies are in industries that are underserved by venture-backed solutions that you see popping up all the time. Yeah. Meanwhile, a venture capitalist is, more than happy to, only have 2 out of 10 deals hit. That's actually really good. That'd be really great if they had 2 out of every 10. But they're doing a lot of times capital destruction all the time, where, they're throwing a lot of money at a bunch of different, companies and seeing which ones, pan out and which ones don't, in constant pursuit of the unicorn. So, what is it that drives this, kind of relationship between, the people who finance growth and the companies they invest in? And I think a lot of it does come down to bias and what they are accustomed to seeing be successful. And what the definition of success is. Well,
if you want to take that a step further, it comes down to, for an individual investor or investment group, what is your investment thesis? And it's just like, it doesn't matter how great the idea is or how, well marketed or executed it is. If they don't plug in those numbers onto the spreadsheet and they don't come out the right way, they're not investing in that company. They're trying to shorten the odds of success and failure to their advantage, which that's part of the reason people give them money,
Well, but let's keep it. I want to get, I didn't expect to talk about this, but let's keep unpacking this, because why? Why? Because private equity has a much more significant responsibility to Main Street than VC does. And what I mean by that is, a lot of these organizations that provide the capital to private equity are people who are investing our 401k money.
Yeah. Pension funds.
So, they're pension funds. And so they have a strong, I'll tell this story. Hopefully my mother-in-law doesn't listen to this, but I use this story to illustrate this point. When someone is talking about their 401k, a lot of things go out the window. So Kathy, who was, I love her. She's amazing. She's incredible. Best mother-in-law ever. Was a lobbyist for the Association of Texas Public Educators forever and ever. So she's incredibly liberal and has worked really hard in, the field of education, trying to make sure that teachers are well taken care of, et cetera. She, marches in the street. She, donates money, et cetera, et cetera. But when she retired and moved her 401k into the, trusted hands of a financial advisor, and the financial advisor was presenting her with investments, I happened to notice one day, because I'm the person who reviews their investments and, just kind of shakes my head, said, yeah, you're doing great, just to provide that confidence or whatever, because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I noticed that she had Philip Morris was one of the stocks. And I was like, Kathy, this stock stands against everything that you believe in. She's like, yeah, but that's just money stuff. That's just money stuff, right? And I think that's the way a lot of people think about their 401k. So when you connect all the dots, these private equity groups are investing my mother-in-law's money.
Yeah.
And the numbers become very important. Did it go up 5% in a year? Did it go up 10% in a year? Or did it go down? Which, when it happens, is a really big deal for retired folks.
Right.
Who are drawn from that money. So I just feel like there's a lot of, kind of angles, social and institutional, et cetera, that inform the types of opportunities and the approach that people take into investing in and assisting companies. And I think, to make a logical leap that private equity funded companies are better or worse, or venture capital funded companies are better or worse, or result in better products or whatever, is part and parcel of the same thing that we're talking about, which is, it's not about the product at the end of the day. It's about the execution of the strategy. And in most cases, that means the execution of great marketing to get that mental availability, but within the context of what the goals are for that company. So if you've raised $300 million, your expectations for growth and mental availability and the size of the market and everything are going to be much grander than if a private equity company put $15 million into you or $20 million.
Right.
And what that means in terms of, the number of people that you're able to impact and get your product in front of in the first place. Anyway, I talked way too much. I'm sorry. You go.
No, I think that you made some excellent points there. And, to kind of bring this back around to where we came in to this topic, is, that
would be helpful. Thank you.
Bringing it back around. No, so let's take a look at arguably, the most successful workplace technology company brand out there, maybe ever, which is Workday.
Yeah.
You go way, way back to the beginnings of Workday after that, evil Oracle machine ripped PeopleSoft from their hands and turned Dave Duffield into, this avenging angel of workplace technology. They were marketing way ahead of getting a product into market.
Oh yeah.
And they were marketing very, very well. I mean, I think it was 2 years, almost 3 years before product ever even got into market.
One of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they did an excellent job with that. And then I think that they have done a good job at a product level, but I think that a lot of the success that Workday has enjoyed has been because it has been a fantastically marketed brand throughout its history.
Who was that marketer over there forever? Was it Deb Wolf?
Yeah, Deb Wolf.
Deb Wolf, so amazing, did such a wonderful job at Workday. And, it's funny because I looked up Dave Duffield on Wikipedia while we were talking, and it says Dave Duffield, American businessman.
Yeah.
But they did. But they also, to me, that was kind of like a learn because PeopleSoft, did a really great job with marketing, but it was kind of like not as marketing forward as Workday.
Right.
I think we all believed that, any organization, because of past experience that Dave Duffield was, involved with, was going to have a good product,
right.
Or at least good enough, right? Which is kind of the point. It's
right.
like good enough. It's
right.
what people are looking for in the category. But the fact that they led with marketing was really different than some previous, kind of endeavors like PeopleSoft that you saw Dave Duffield be involved with. And that made all the difference. I mean, Workday was a force to be reckoned with before they had ever sold, a single license.
Right. And I mean, they had a model to follow. We're going to build PeopleSoft in the cloud, which, does shorten your odds of, that there's a market out there. But also, if you think about it, PeopleSoft in the cloud, I've heard that invoked not in a complimentary way, know? And so it's just like, is Workday a great product? Yes, it is. Is it not a great product? It spawned an entire ecosystem of implementers and people who try to make it functional for organizations. And there's still, as in any major ERP or HRIS implementation, there's still a not insignificant risk of failure. So, there's two ways of looking at that,
Yeah. It also, I mean, there's a million just interesting things that I think Workday brings up. I think if you asked most people when Workday was founded, they would project a much later date than it actually was. Founded in 2005.
Yeah.
And so another really interesting thing to talk about is that basically this was, part of the great organizing principle that was created by the migration to the cloud, that was created by the invention of the World Wide Web. And at that time, some people, Oracle, SAP, IBM, etc., were arguing, don't go to the cloud. It's a dangerous place. They'll steal your wallet and your data. And it's just a terrible business model, and it's going to go away. And other organizations, SuccessFactors, SAP, etc., were embracing the cloud. Workday was maybe 2 years after the first big wave of early movers, so pretty early in the process. And it was an acceptance of the new organizing principle that on-premise solutions were not where the future was. And so that's a pretty interesting story behind Workday as well, and the role of marketing in establishing, in what many people at the time considered a pretty sleepy little market segment, that little, HR technology, HCM, segment. And yet, I'll just say it, we pretty much invented the cloud. We made the cloud happen. And then when SAP and Oracle and IBM came crawling back to the cloud, trying to get a ticket in the cloud, who did they buy? Worktech Solutions. I don't know what that was apropos of.
Yeah, it's apropos of that's the point. It's not the best product. It's the best marketed product. It's the best branded product. And I think that, to kind of draw a line under what Workday did well from a brand perspective, apart from just developing a great brand and executing it consistently over time, was they were able to put a very human narrative behind it. It was Dave Duffield got screwed out of his company by Oracle. This is the comeback story.
Yeah.
And that was very much top of mind with a lot of industry watchers as Workday developed and unfolded, and it provided a very understandable, kind of almost primal human narrative underneath a very complicated technology story.
Well, I'm liberated now.
Yeah.
The machinery of Oracle is not causing me to stay trapped in on-premise solutions. I can explore the cloud, create the next generation of, innovative, work tech solutions. Because we're a startup.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much quality storytelling and emotional connection, and even the brand, just really, I think, hit a lot of people the right way. I think that a lot of insiders are really snarky when it comes to Workday.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that that's pretty typical when you see someone succeed.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of snipers out there.
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is Workday did a pretty good job of humanizing a brand, of being, kind of more approachable and more aligned with the attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs of many buyers out there, and bonding with people emotionally, and not on features and benefits. I mean, I remember a period, from like 2005 to 2008 where people didn't even really, correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't really know what the hell Workday did.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what it was going to do, but they knew that it was important and they should be paying attention.
Well, and when you think about it, when you think about radical buyers, that's why Workday is a really great example of a radical buyer and how they are making an emotional decision and making a brand selection that says something about them. It's just like if you are a CHRO who is looking to update the tech stack of your company, it's just like you're throwing all your weight behind Workday because you're saying something about, I am an innovative agent of change in my organization, and that's the brand I want to put on my career and on my public persona.
Yeah, we got the good shit here.
Right.
Like, I'm going to put it on my resume. Like, I affected the migration to Workday. It was a 3-year process. Here are all of my credentials associated with it and why it changed the total destiny of this company, because we, position ourselves at the vanguard of employee experience and, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But yeah, I think that, that is totally in line with, what we're kind of talking about, which is this is not about people bonding with features and benefits. This is about people bonding with a story, with an emotional pull towards something, with what it says about them, what it says about, their company. It's a really big decision. So I just wonder, why do, so many, in the same article, the author points out, and we'll put a link to the article in the description. The author points out that according to the B2B Institute, 77% of B2B ads score a 1 on a scale of 1 to 5 when it comes to creative effectiveness. And for B2C, that number is 53%. So that's a really big difference, right? So basically 77% of ads suck for B2B companies. And the biggest, and here's some, kind of tests around, does your ad suck? How many words are in there?
Yeah.
How many features and benefits does it name? And by the way, the more words and the more features you're naming, the more sucky your ad is in any context.
Right.
Because that's not what people are buying. They need to know that it's located within the category and that it meets the, expectations for components in that category, but then move on.
Right.
Create a moment that is memorable. And that's just efficient marketing. Like if, people actually remember your ad and that causes them to pay attention, you actually have to pay less on the number of ads that you put out in the market.
Right.
Because getting people to pay attention is the hardest part.
Right.
And that's why the creativity is so important. So why do people stay so focused on shitty ads with stock photos and limitless lists of features and benefits? Why, Steve? Why?
I wish I had an answer to that question. And I think that part of it is that for pretty much ever, B2B brands have had permission to suck. The expectations were so painfully low that it was just like, okay, we're going to get, the picture of the thoughtful businessman staring off into middle distance. And then we're going to have some bullshit slogan taken off of like a break room poster. And then we're going to name some features and benefits and we're out. And it's just like, some of it is just, it's the fault of the industry allowing low expectations to get by. That's not universally true. There's been some really, I think, breakthrough moments, but by and large, no. And most not just work tech, but just across kind of B2B altogether, we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah, when I first started doing B2B marketing back in the 90s, like in
the
my first
1990s,
job.
yes.
Yeah, was in 1997, I think, for a software company. I was really naive, and I didn't know anything about anything. And I got hired into the software company, and I had a degree at the time in American literature. There was a computer lab at my college at Southwestern University in Georgetown that had 5 computers, and those were the only computers on campus. Like, we all had those like Brother typewriters with a little digital screen where you could see like 144 characters or something like that.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah. And so you were up all night, getting your paper done, mostly because you had to type it and move it from the blue book into typing it. And so I didn't know anything about software. I didn't know anything about Windows. I think we were in Windows 3.1 at the time. There were still floppy disks, that sort of thing. I didn't know anything about anything. But after working in B2B marketing in a technology company for a couple of years in Austin, Texas, where, at the time, just ask anyone who was in Austin, the coolest people in the world lived there. Just ask them. They'll tell you. Some really cool people asked me why I would go into B2B marketing instead of B2C marketing, because B2B marketing is where all the losers go and all the awesome creative people go into B2C, especially if they used to play in bands. So I don't think that, I don't know if that perception still exists. I can tell you that we've worked with, B2C brands. We've worked with B2B brands. We've worked with people who've come from some of the biggest B2C agencies in the world. We've had CEOs in the past who ran, really well-known agencies. So we've met, a wide range of wonderful people from B2C and B2B. And my personal experience is that in the last 10 years, the people that we've come across, both within the Star Conspiracy, but also on the client side, the people that we work with are some of the most talented, energetic, and sometimes frustrated people that I've ever met, because they don't get to do everything that they know is right or want to do from a marketing perspective. So I think a lot of the talent, like if you were to ask me, which you did not, but if you were to ask me, I'm on a real talking thing today. Sorry, man. If you were to ask me where the really serious marketers are going right now, I would say the perception is shifting, and that a lot of people view B2C marketing as a rather vapid pursuit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, first of all, care most about their work experience and who they're working with and the work that they're doing. But in terms of impact on the world, I think there's a lot of people who are going into B2B because the companies they work with, certainly the companies that we work with, are much better positioned to have a significant impact on things that matter in people's life experience. Do you think this, still exists, this notion that like B2B is like the, B team?
Less so. I think B2B's kind of been having a moment here for a few years. And I think a lot of that has been, just following the dollars. I mean, work tech generally and B2B specifically has been getting a lot of investment capital flowing into it because of the size of the opportunity. And, there's gold in them there hills. And so I think that that marketers and advertising people are looking at work tech differently now. But also I think that we've seen some virtuoso brand moments become, I think, more common within the space. And so, whether you want to look at something like Better Up hiring Prince Harry, that was a great,
it's a baller move,
great brand moment.
Still talking about
it. And so, there's been a number of companies. I mean, we had it in the newsletter, I think it was last week, Monday.com, buying a Super Bowl ad. Mm-hmm. And so there's very much a lot more swagger, I think, coming into B2B marketing. And you're starting to see that really, come to the fore in work tech marketing. And I think you're going to see a lot more of it here in the next couple of years.
Well, so true story. As of today, there's still one Super Bowl ad left.
Really?
Yeah, just so everyone knows.
So you're saying we got a chance?
Saying we got a chance. And but the cost of things like Super Bowl ads and stuff like that has gone up so much. Really, we've seen this across every marketing channel. But back to this notion of like, the relationship or difference between B2B and B2C marketing and how glamorous it is or not. I mean, maybe it's just me because I'm an old guy. And but when I turn on the TV, all I see are pharmaceutical ads and work tech ads.
That's might because be that's what you're looking bias. For.
Well, yes, it might be confirmation bias, but there are a lot more B2B ads on television, in stadiums, in outdoor advertising, in over-the-top digital, in all of these, kind of formats that, I mean, we were some of the pioneers. And again, I'm not, I hate the phrase tooting our own horn, but I'll use it. I'm not tooting our own horn here, but we, really moved a lot of companies into those formats. I remember our first billboard on the 101, and it was an odd thing to do for not only a B2B company, but especially a work tech company at the time. And now it's kind of like, if you reach a certain, level and you've got a certain marketing budget, of course you're going to be on television. Of course you're going to do outdoor. Of course you're going to do, et cetera. And so I just, there's a big platform, there's a lot of opportunity, and yet we still seem constrained in so many ways by this notion of focusing on product quality and features and benefits and stuff like that, when what people really want to do is bond with something they can believe in from an attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs perspective on an emotional level. I mean, they really crave that. They want to believe in something, because all products are ultimately disappointing in terms of, big caveat, they're ultimately disappointing in terms of being awesome at everything that you bought them for.
Right.
And so the question is, do you believe in the direction that the company's going in? Do you believe in what they're trying to do in the world? And does that give you the trust and confidence that allows you to forgive brands for the things they don't do, and be really grateful for the things they do, and expect that in the future, more things that you agree with are going to show up instead of things that don't add any value?
Exactly.
Sorry, man.
That's okay.
Lots of coffee today. So that takes me to moments and experiences, and I think this is where, for me, all of this stuff kind of comes together, is that when you view customer experience as one domain that's connected to employee experience and shareholder experience and social good, and you see these subdomains of customer experience, brand, marketing, sales, product, customer success, very similar subdomains under employee experience and shareholder experience, not so much in social good. That's a different thing. Because a lot of those folks are technically outside your ecosystem, but are still impacted by the decisions that your business makes, right, and the model that it sets. When you look at it that way, and you think about these marketing considerations and this focus on product superiority and features and benefits and kind of lame marketing and stuff like that, you really start to see the need to create amazing moments. And how an experience, as we talk about it, like I'll use this example. You know how everyone says that, like, so we do a lot of work in recognition. You're probably have done a lot more work in recognition than I have. And they talk about the types of incentives that people like. And this is a big deal, right? And so there was a shift with millennials. And millennials, as a monolithic group who all feel and think the same way, that prefer experiences over, like, gift cards or whatever. So, Blue Board is super well positioned because they create these amazing experiences. You just hit your, you won the President's Award or whatever for, sales. Okay, we're going to drop you from a helicopter near the San Francisco Bridge, and you're going to get picked up in a fancy car, and then you're going to have this amazing dinner, or you're going to go on this trip, this vacation or whatever. And so if we just think about that was a long intro into the notion of a vacation being an experience, right? So what does an experience mean? It's a collection of moments. There's the moment that you drove to the airport, that you got on the plane, the moment of your plane trip, the moment of arriving at the hotel, the moment of your first dinner, this moment, that moment, the other moment. And all of those moments come together, pluses and minuses, to add up to the overall quality of the experience, right?
Right.
And sometimes moments are so big that they cancel out all the other moments. Like if you got your wallet stolen on vacation,
right,
and everything else was awesome, it still will always be the vacation where you got your wallet stolen, right? And so it's really the quality of those moments that adds up to the experiences that we're trying to create, not just in marketing, but across all of the different subdomains of, customer experience and employee experience, et cetera. And what fucking moment in the world is defined by a feature or benefit?
None.
Zero.
Well,
So do people get this? Are they thinking about moments and experiences?
I think that the landscape is beginning to shift in that direction, but I mean, even just kind of looking at, some of the things that we're doing, thinking about experience holistically from, the brand experience to the sales experience to the customer experience, and really this continuum of experiences, actually, like, taking, our very able colleague, Joe Galvan, and putting him in a position where just like, you are going to be the director of brand experience, and you are going to execute continuity across all of these experiences, whether we're talking about employment, brand, or, customer experience. Just beginning to think about how big that mandate is and how do you get all of those component parts right. It's a journey, and it's going to take a while. And I think that even as there's just companies beginning to wrap their heads around this whole idea of, okay, we need to improve the customer experience. What does that mean? How are we creating these meaningful moments within, a customer's time with us, and when does that actually begin? It's just like you can't slay all the dragons at once. You got to figure out, where do you want to start, do that well, and start kind of building it out from there.
Yeah, and in my opinion, you can call it whatever you want, but I like to call it moments and experiences. But it starts with mapping the most significant moments that people come into contact with you, and how all of those add up to the quality of experience. And when I say quality in this context, I'm not talking about good or bad. I'm talking about the, inherent nature of it, the quality of the experience. Knowing what, your vision is for, the experience that you're trying to create in that context, and then mapping all of those significant moments. So Joe right now is mapping the moments that drive our, customer experience brand, our employee experience, all that stuff. And then diving into each of those moments and figuring out how to make them awesome so that they all, contribute to an affinity for the experience and for the brand.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I think that,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, and Joe is so great at creating those experiences. Like with new hires, he puts together like this brand bento box where it's just like, there's just this beautiful box that arrives at your doorstep that has all of this really cool swag, like a hoodie and T-shirts and just all of this stuff, and a personal note, and just like making every person feel like they are really important to, one of the earliest campaigns that he did from a sales experience standpoint was the Growler campaign we did in San Francisco, where we had like branded growlers and, pint glasses with, our logo on it, and just stop by and say, hey, we wanted to bring you some beer. We're in the neighborhood. And it's just like, we got so much positive feedback from that of just like, man, that's the best campaign like this I have seen. And it's just like, for years, we could go around to just different startups around Soma, and there would be one of those glasses there, and it's just like there was that ongoing kind of like brand experience from there, and just all of the positive feedback we got. That was a fantastic experience.
Well, and think about Joe's work on the Metaverse Initiative.
Yeah.
And so, the Metaverse Initiative started with a really small group internally, just getting together and, seeing what it was like to be in a meeting with VR goggles on. And then that expanded to, a larger group. And then we decided to buy everyone in the, company a headset and really start experimenting in the metaverse. But Joe looked at it from an experience perspective and said, how do we make this an experience that adds up to, or a moment rather, that adds up to the vision for the experience that we're trying to create, which our purpose as an organization is to create abundance. We talk about that every now and then. And the quality of all the experiences and moments that we create is really about creating abundance. And so Joe was really able to look at it through that lens and I think, so we're on fire with Metaverse right now. Sorry, Steve.
That's okay. It's okay.
We're on fire with Metaverse right now. And I don't think that we would have gotten the level of interest and adoption internally, because we're talking about, like, at this point, we have bought over 100 headsets. So we've distributed, I think, about 75 or something like that. But we have an inventory because there's demand for, public relations experiences in the metaverse and customer experience, moments in the metaverse and stuff like that. So we always have inventory on hand, because these days you never know when they're like going to run out of headsets and you can't like do that campaign that you want to do, have that analyst summit or whatever. And so we're deeply invested in the metaverse, but I don't think that we would have gotten this far and have gotten the recent attention that we've gotten had Joe not really focused in on the moment and make that a really special moment, because he made it part of the holiday gift package that we sent out. He did all this planning around making sure that people didn't feel like this huge amount of disequilibrium and confusion around how to use this for the first time. And I think that's really like a great example of looking at the quality of moments and how they contribute to the experience, even if that, the value or the features and benefits of that moment are not abundantly clear.
Right.
It wasn't abundantly clear, and it's still not abundantly clear that the metaverse is going to be like a huge thing for the Star Conspiracy. So who knows where that goes? But I can tell you this, it created a great moment, both from a CX perspective and from an EX perspective, because of Joe's approach to it, which was based on experience building.
Yeah, and I want to pull the kind of a thread on the through line here through everything we've been talking about today, which is, I think a lot of times what holds back B2B marketers on brand, and what I see holding back B2B marketers in this experience conversation, is the whole ROI element.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's the ROI am I getting out of it? And so, like,
right.
And to brag on Joe a little bit more, because he does so many fantastic things for the agency, and a lot of folks who may be listening to us today who have attended HR Tech, Joe's the guy who puts together the exhibitor lounge that we sponsor. And Joe makes such a fantastic experience out of it. He's like,
with the paltry budget that we get.
Oh yeah. I don't know if he's like, I don't know how he's making it work, but it's a miracle of loaves and fishes proportions. But, couches, we got a Pac-Man machine, we got chargers, there's Rice Krispie treats, the keg is always filled, there's water. It's just like you show up and it's just like, there he is with a lozenge. It's just like he is on point about all of it, creating this great experience. We have never had any sort of accountability around what's the ROI of this. But has that driven ROI for our agency?
Yeah, but I was going to ask the same question and make the same point about the Growler campaign. It's like when I tell that story, inevitably people say, well, how many deals did you close from it? Right. And I'm like, well, first of all, a lot. But second of all, that's not the point. The point is, like, we engaged a lot of people and that we're still connected with. I still get like direct messages on LinkedIn with people like holding their pint glass, and they remember us. And, some might ask, well, what's the value of that? And I'd say that's all the value, because either they're going to buy from us or not, or they're going to tell a bunch of people about us or not, or they're going to think we're cool and we get it, right? Mm-hmm. And if they think we're cool and we get it, they've bonded with us on, that psychographic level, that attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs level. And anyone that doesn't think that ultimately that has many direct and indirect beneficial outcomes is just wrong.
Right.
They don't get it. But also to flatly tie the success of an experience initiative to how many MQLs and SQLs did it drive misses the point of engaging an audience and building affinity, and not putting everyone on this treadmill or this slide of, it's like, oh, we're supposed to connect and convert, right? It's like connect, make them an inquiry, drive them to an MQL, take them to an SQL, move them to close. Then they become a customer, and that's not how the world works.
Right.
It's more like a merry-go-round. People get on and off in different places, and you have to make sure that the quality of each of those moments is amazing. And every time you create an amazing moment, it contributes to the possibility that the entire experience will be amazing, and the value, the I get emotional, Steve. The drive to assign value based on metrics. It's not the problem. The metrics aren't the problem. It's the problem that the metrics that are chosen often limit the scope of value that can be created or is implied by the initiative. And, the same thing for the exhibitor lounge, the same thing for some campaigns that we ran back in the day. I mean, the first time we pulled a fucking Airstream onto the show floor at HR Tech, many, eons ago, it seems provincial now.
Yeah.
But when you look back on it, it was pretty noticeable and crazy. In fact, in that year, the two most talked about exhibits at HR Tech were ours and Sonar 6's. And Sonar 6 had a cardboard box because they refused to spend money on a booth, which was similar to our motivation because we wanted to own the exhibit after we paid for it. But we also had this, idea of creating a big moment. But the quality of that moment, how many deals did we close? Well, we probably closed 3 or 4 deals because people would come in and, sit inside the Airstream trailer and drink our bootleg liquor, on the show floor and have great conversations with us. But I am totally serious when I say this. It launched 1,000 ships. Like, that was a moment that changed the destiny of our agency, that led to people talking about us and having affinity for our brand in ways that, just didn't exist before then. So I agree with you, obviously, that metrics aren't the problem. It's picking the wrong metrics or too few metrics or entering into it with an expectation of what metric is the most important rather than entering into it with a sense of curiosity and what metric becomes the most important, 2 years later, 2 months. What? Why you're making fun of me?
No. Because I'm about to pull the pin out of the grenade.
Okay.
This is the point where I ask you about surrogation.
Oh, no, you didn't do it. Gah!
Release the Kraken.
Well, all of this is about surrogation. The reason marketing sucks in B2B is because of surrogation. And so, I'm going to try to make this quick, but surrogation is not just a marketing thing.
No, it's not.
Surrogation is a problem in life. And it's most often expressed in business. And this is how it happens. Somebody has this complete, vision for how to do something awesome. This is what we want to be. This is what we stand for. This is what we're trying to achieve, et cetera. And then inevitably somebody in the room says, well, how are we going to measure that? You fucking asshole. Every time I've been asked that question in my life, I've always been, you fucking asshole. All right, let's go there. And so that's fine. You want to measure it. Okay, great. Was it successful? Was it not? It's like, if it's successful or not, but whatever. And so inevitably a number or a metric gets chosen based on the limited perspective we have of meaningful numbers, based on the prevailing notions of the day of what's meaningful, like SQLs and MQLs and stuff like that in a marketing context. Yeah. And then the numbers become surrogates for the strategy.
Right.
And then over time, the strategy is forgotten. The big idea is forgotten, and everyone starts aiming towards the numbers. And then most often, in fact, what happens is that the strategy is not only forgotten, you start making decisions that are counter to the strategy in pursuit of hitting the numbers, right? And so, and I've got a million examples of this, but, it's not just marketing. It's also how you run a business.
Right.
You don't let the numbers take over the business. Numbers are important for, measuring, kind of the what you produce from a financial perspective. But if you want to have an impact on a number, don't go fucking talk to people about the number. Talk to them about the behaviors and the principles and the human things that add up to the number and drive the numbers. Don't just go give them some fucking number they don't care about and don't understand and say, we need to make progress on this number. Build the bridge, avoid surrogation, because, you start talking about the number and suddenly people will start doing whatever it takes to hit that number. And the things they do to hit that number can have many negative unintended consequences. So it's up to us as leaders and, as things become more decentralized and autonomous, as organizations, to have the power together to think about the behaviors and the principles that drive the numbers instead of holding everyone accountable to a number that they don't care about, because it's a very shareholder-driven view of life. It's not an employee-driven view of life. It's not a customer-driven view of life. It's one stakeholder across all the stakeholders that make an ecosystem work. And if you lean in too much to those numbers, you start sounding like, an asshole business person.
Right.
And people can't get behind that, especially when, a once in 100-year pandemic happens and people are reevaluating every fucking aspect of their life. Stop me, Steve. Stop me.
Basta.
God bless.
Enough.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
But that was good.
Anyway.
That was good.
Was that where you?
Yeah, that's what you did. What I thought you would do. So,
damn it,
mission accomplished.
You sensed it in me. I was just a bomb ready to go off today.
Yeah, but I think it was a good conversation.
It was. So, in summary, marketing matters. As part of the constellation of stars that add up to customer experience. Yes, you have to have a great product, but having a great product alone is not enough. Having great marketing alone is not enough. You have to think about it as a holistic collection of moments that add up to a great experience. And in order to create a high quality moment and the quality of moment that you want and the experience that you want, you have to think about how people feel after the moment. So Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said. They'll even forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And that is the best definition of experience and of brand that I've ever heard. And so I think that if we start thinking more about how we make people feel in the employee experience, in the customer experience, and the shareholder experience, and our contribution to social good, I think we'll get out of this quagmire of really uninspired, feature-driven marketing with the belief that our product is so good that it'll make up for it.
Well said.
We will never have another one like this again.
Oh yeah, we will. Just every week. So question for you: are you going to watch the Super Bowl that was just coming up this weekend?
I always watch the Super Bowl, and I always say I'm not going to right up until the day before. And then I remember that my father-in-law makes this amazing 7-layer bean dip.
Oh, wow.
And that I'm supposed to watch the commercials.
Yeah.
And so, yes. How about you?
Yes, I'll be, since I'm in St. Louis, I, along with the rest of the city, will be hate watching it, hoping the Rams lose. So we're all big Bengals / Joe Burrow fans right now.
It's kind of your Houston moment, right? Like when Houston moved to Tennessee.
Exactly. This is also the point where I mentioned that, the only Super Bowl that the Rams have won belongs to the St. Louis Rams, not the Los Angeles Rams. So there you go.
There you go. I have so much to say about that, but I've already taken too much of your time. So I'm so wound up that I'm just afraid what will happen next if we keep going.
Let's put a pin in it.
Let's put a pin in it.